Recorded in beautiful Vancouver, Washington, this is the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra podcast, and I am your host, Ashley Hall. This episode is part of our special series VSO Encore, where we revisit pieces and performers from concerts past. Mother's Day has come and gone, but one day just isn't enough to celebrate all the ways moms are there for us. Today, we want to take you back to childhood and the world of bedtime stories, and perhaps no mom is more associated with tucking you in with a fairy tale than the one and only Mother Goose. The origin of the character Mother Goose is hard to trace, with scholars in contention about just how far back the tradition goes. The earliest known text containing Mother Goose is Charles Perrault's Stories or Tales from Past Times with Morals, or Mother Goose Tales. First published in 1685, this text included stories like Sleeping Beauty, Little Red Riding Hood, Puss in Boots, and Cinderella, or at least Perrault's version of them. As with the figure of Mother Goose herself, the origins of the tales in the book are mysterious, and it's possible that Perrault invented some while borrowing and updating others. As the title would suggest, his fairy tales are moralistic stories, though at the time of publication, children's literature did not exist, and the tales were intended to be read by an adult audience. Since then, however, such stories have become indelible fixtures in the catalogue of children's bedtime stories. This brings us to today's music. In 1910, Maurice Ravel composed a 5-movement piano duet titled Ma Mère, in English, Mother Goose, which he dedicated to the 2 children of sculptor Cyprian Godebsky. The next year, he would go on to orchestrate it, and in 1912 it would be expanded into a ballet. Ravel drew on the stories of Perrault, of course, but would also look to Madame d'Aulnoy's The Green Serpent and Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont's version of Beauty and the Beast. Each story represented is a movement in the suite, beginning with Pavane de la Belle au Bois dormant, or Pavane of the Sleeping Beauty. Of the piece, Ravel wrote, "The idea of evoking in these pieces the poetry of childhood naturally led me to simplify my style and to refine my means of expression." The sweet melody of the flute brings us into the world of fairy tales, and one can almost see the lonely princess slumbering in her ancient castle, waiting for her hero to wake her. The second movement is Petite Poussey, translated as Hop o' My Thumb. The story here is similar to Tom Thumb, as well as Hansel and Gretel, as brothers wandering the woods try to find their way home by scattering breadcrumbs which are eaten by birds, and the children arrive at the house of an ogre. The flute and piccolo portray the swooping birds who thwart Petite Poussey's clever plan. This wandering tune expresses the frustration of the lost children, confused and alone in the dark woods. The third movement is Les Déronettes, Impératrice des Pagodes, or Les Déronettes, Empress of the Pagodas, taken from Madame d'Aulnoy's The Green Serpent. In some ways, this tale is similar to Sleeping Beauty. In others, it resembles Beauty and the Beast. Twin princesses are born, and a wicked fairy places a spell on one of the girls, which curses her with ugliness. She grows up in a tower, but is one day abducted by a green dragon, who is actually a king under a curse. In the end, after being restored from her own curse, La Déronette travels into Hades to break the curse on the serpent, who she has come to love. This story teaches the moral that love can overcome any obstacle. fourth movement of the suite is Les Entretiens de la Belle et la Bête, or Conversations of Beauty and the Beast. You can hear the beast's monstrous voice in the contrabassoon as he and Beauty, represented by the clarinet, talk about his curse. Beauty tells him that she will be his wife and the curse is broken, at which point we hear his transformation into a man with a gentle violin solo. The fifth and final movement is titled Le Jardin Féerique, or The Fairy Garden. While the title doesn't tie it to any specific tale, the ballet frames this moment as the waking of Sleeping Beauty from the beginning of the suite by her Prince Charming, a swelling fanfare expressing the joy of true love and reminding us of the eternal closing words, "And they lived happily ever after." Stay tuned for more VSO Encore episodes released every week. Find it on our social media and our website at vancouversymphony.org. or subscribe to us on your preferred podcast app. The recordings you heard today were from the Mother Goose Suite by Maurice Ravel, performed by the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, Maestro Salvador Brotons conducting, at Skyview Concert Hall on Sunday, April 10th, 2016.